So the Trump tax documents are starting to filter out, and it's instantly terrible for Donald Trump, instantly evidence of financial fraud that we believed for years was exactly what tax documents would reveal. Now, this is not Donald Trump's tax returns. I know that there are people who maybe misunderstood the headlines around this. This is not Trump's tax returns. ProPublica has obtained some Donald Trump tax documents, and they show exactly what we've predicted for a long time, which is that Donald Trump is playing very fast and loose with the value of assets and profitability that he claims, depending on whether he's trying to impress a lender or avoid taxation. Specifically, ProPublica has documents that relate to, I believe it's 4 Manhattan buildings that Donald Trump owns. And they obtained these documents through Freedom of Information Act requests. And the documents were provided because these documents were made public because Trump appealed his property tax bill for the buildings in question every year for, in some cases, 9 years in a row. And so what ProPublica was able to do, very solid investigation, was take the tax records and compare them with loan records that Donald Trump's lender, Ladder Capital, made public when they sold the debt. But this isn't just generally saying to a lender, oh, my building's worth 50 million, and then saying to the IRS, the building's only worth 25 million. That is something I'm sure Donald Trump is doing. And Michael Cohen told us that that's what Donald Trump is doing. But this is actually more. Donald Trump is actually lying about how much rent the buildings are taking in, which is a much more calculated and specific type of lie. Some might call it fraud. And in fact, a number of real estate professionals are calling it exactly that. So here's one example. Donald Trump told his lender that the buildings earn twice as much rent, that one building earns twice as much rent as what he told tax authorities in the same year, in 2017. Okay? Both can't be true. Those are lies. This is financial fraud. Another example, Trump's building at 40 Wall Street. I would walk by this building every day because our David Pakman Show studios in New York City were like a block from Trump's building at 40 Wall Street. I'd walk by it every day. Trump told a lender that 40 Wall Street went from being 59% leased to 95% leased in a period of a few years. But then around the same time that he was telling the lender it was 59% leased, he told tax officials that the building was 81% leased. Now, we're still trying to figure out what the advantage to doing that is. There may be disincentives to have empty buildings, although I need to research a little more about New York City tenant landlord law and restrictions and provisions. But whatever the impetus was, it doesn't make sense. And that's what's immediately revealed by these documents. Sometimes the exact motivation for the discrepancies is not completely clear. Does he want a stronger position to receive money from a lender? Does he want to minimize tax liability from the government, the state government of New York? But in other cases, it's not totally clear what the impetus is for each lie. But ProPublica went with everything that they uncovered to a dozen real estate professionals. And the real estate professionals were basically unanimous in their assessment. Number one, there is no clear explanation for this. But number two, these discrepancies are, and this is a quote, versions of fraud, which would not be a surprise to anybody who's been following this. Now, this type of fraud can lead to criminal charges. It's very unlikely that it will because nothing has been sticking to Donald Trump. But note that Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, and Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, are in prison in part for falsifying tax and bank records, some of which relate to real estate, all in the service of, at least when it comes to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump. So this is very serious stuff. The big picture. The big picture is that this is called double bookkeeping. Fraudsters typically do this. They maintain one set of books. That's the set you show certain entities. And there's another set of books that is either your private set of books or the one that you keep on hand to show other regulatory entities, depending on what is most advantageous at the time. Really solid investigation by ProPublica. And under that, I mean, look, you look at just a few buildings and it's immediately clear that something isn't right. This is just 4 buildings that they looked at. Imagine if we were able to actually get Donald Trump's tax returns, what might be in there. His voters might not care, sure, but it would be an absolute treasure trove. It's almost like Trump knows that his tax returns going public would be absolutely terrible for him and possibly implicate him in crimes. So he's going completely out of his way to do everything he can to prevent their release, exactly as we've been saying for years, back all the way since before he even started the general election debates against Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign. Will we ever see the tax returns? I don't know. But I hope that we do. Due cappucci, per favore. Grazie mille. One of our sponsors making the David Pakman Show possible is Babbel, the language learning app, and you'll get 25% off a subscription to Babbel when you click the link under this video. Babbel was founded in 2007 and now has over 1 million paying subscribers worldwide as one of the world's leading language learning apps. Their learning method has been examined numerous times in scientific studies, including one at Yale in 2019, which found that 100% of participants who used Babbel were able to improve their oral proficiency with a new language within just 3 months. Research found that users learning Spanish on Babbel only needed to use the app for an average of 15 hours over a 2-month period to cover the requirements for one college semester of Spanish. I recently went to Italy and used Babbel to brush up on my Italian for a few weeks leading up to the trip. And I was actually surprised at how much I was able to absorb in such a short amount of time. After practicing Italian on the Babbel app, I was able to hold some conversations with locals in Italy. I could understand a lot more of the Italian that I was hearing. And the progress I made was extremely inspiring in keeping me going and continuing to use the app to get even better. I'm also about to use the app to start learning German, which I'm looking forward to. I really would recommend Babbel to anyone who watches our show, and you can save 25% on a subscription to Babbel when you click the link right underneath this video.